Hi, I'm Owen Perkins, and I'm a candidate to be a delegate to the Democratic National Convention for Bernie Sanders. And I just wanted to have a brief introduction on the video here, informal. Talk a little bit about the convention and my goal in representing you there. First off, I really want to thank you for being a delegate. It's always a big deal to step up and take on that extra responsibility, but I think this year more than ever. For a variety of reasons. Obviously, it's so important this year. I think in 2016, we were all thinking that a Trump presidency was a long shot, and now we know what an existential crisis a Trump presidency is. So we need to be able to end this crisis and nominate a Democratic, elect a Democratic nominee to the White House. So you're part of that process, and I hope you know, I think you wouldn't be watching this video if you didn't know how important it is to stay in the process, even though Bernie suspended his campaign. I think you know that Bernie has said he's going to continue collecting delegates in the primaries that are still scheduled. More than half the country, I believe, has not voted yet. So he will still collect delegates as we go on. And those that have already been elected or are about to be elected need to go to the convention and stand up for Bernie and stand up for all of us and our progressive values and make sure that that is reflected in the party's nominee, as well as in our party platform, in our rules and procedures and policies. This is vitally important. I think you all know how important a role Bernie Sanders played in the 2016 convention in terms of changing our democratic platform and making it something that was truly, much more reflective of the party as a whole, much less about the establishment, much less about that 1% of Democrats, and much more about all of us. And so we need to do that again. We need to be, and I think he really kind of rewrote the book for Democratic candidates. Almost every Democratic nominee in this year's huge initial field has incorporated some, if not most, of Bernie's ideas from 2016 into their approach this year. So that's great success for us as Bernie supporters, and we need to maintain that this year. So it's vitally important that we send all the delegates that were allotted to the convention, and that we've got the numbers to have influence. And I think it's also vitally important that we're sending our best possible delegates to the convention. It's not a celebration. It's not just a formal crowning. It's work. There's stuff to be done. There's progress that we need to keep making. So thank you for taking your role in that seriously. Please make sure to vote when you get your ballots Monday, and you've got until, I believe, 6 p.m. Wednesday to turn in your ballots by mail. What am I talking about? By email or by telephone. I also want to continue talking about the convention. One of the things that we also need to do at the convention is, and one of the reasons we need our strongest delegates there is we need to widen our revolution. We need to get more people who are there for other candidates, the Warren delegates, the Bloomberg delegates, the Buttigieg delegates, the Klobuchar delegates, and as many Biden delegates as we can to accept our progressive platform ideas and our progressive policy ideas. One of the things we changed last cycle, was eliminating super delegates and changing the way we come up with a nominee. So this is really important work. We can't do it on our own. We need people there who can build coalitions and who can convince delegates for other candidates to join with us on the most important issues and to make sure that the Democratic Party reflects those values that so many of the majority of us in the party, I believe, really strongly believe in. So that's one part, is getting other supporters for other candidates onto our ideas and in support of our ideas. And very important along with that is making sure that the Bernie supporters and Bernie delegates and Bernie voters all over the country maintain the enthusiasm and focus and drive that has gotten us this far, and that we've shown all the way through the campaign and all the way for the last 5 years for so many of us since he first declared in 2015. So maintaining that enthusiasm and energy among Bernie delegates is something that has to come out, and Bernie voters is something that has to come out of that campaign if we want to win in November. That's something I'm committed to doing at the convention. It was making sure that we behave in a way and that we do what we can to maintain excitement and enthusiasm among Bernie's voters. We're following his lead, and he's asked us to go to the convention. He's asked us to. He has always said he will support the Democratic nominee, whoever the Democratic nominee is. We need to be there with him. We need to follow that lead and make sure that we prevail in November. So that's very important. And I think after the election after the convention is when a lot of that comes into play. And that's where I will also play a big role as a delegate coming back from the convention. There's a couple things. One thing is, I got incredible. I was an Obama delegate in 2012. And I don't know if I've ever had a political experience that was more intensively educational than being at that convention and attending every possible caucus that I could. Things like the African American caucus, the Hispanic caucus, the LGBTQ plus caucus, the Veterans caucus, the Women's caucus, the Native American caucus, on and on, Disability caucus, trying to make sure that I was learning as much as I could as these groups had incredible speakers and incredible forums and shared ideas with me that I brought back to Colorado, that I offered to voters and elected officials as possible legislative solutions to problems within our state. But at any rate, my point is there's so much to bring back from the convention and to share with you. One of the things I did in 2012 was I recorded 100 videos when I was at the convention, mostly all these different caucuses, every speaker who spoke on the floor, almost every speaker, and fantastic speakers, and very interesting to me, and I think to you also, and that's my goal, is to go there and represent you and follow the things that you're interested, report on the things that you're interested in, share the things I think you might be interested or should be interested in, bring that back. I think I can bring a lot to the convention from Colorado, from the great things that we've done in Colorado. So I want to be able to do that, but I also want to bring back a lot of things. It's an opportunity to learn from so many people from all over the country, activists like you and me, elected officials, all kinds of leaders, and there's so much to gain there and to bring back. And we had several meetings when we came back from 2012 convention, and forums and things to relay that information, and certainly the entire campaigning process in Colorado was a reflection for many of us of the drive that we tapped into at the convention, and that we were able to bring back and put to use on the ground in the grassroots. So that's a really important part of it, is bringing the message home, bringing the enthusiasm home, bringing the call to action home, and following through until election day to make sure that we're mobilizing our forces, that our grassroots efforts, which have been so successful in the past, are successful once again here in 2020. I want to take a quick moment to thank the leaders who have stepped up to endorse me as a candidate who can achieve these goals. They come from people I've worked with for years on various projects that support values that I share with Bernie and my endorsers, and with you. So in no particular order, former Representative Joe Salazar, Representative Emily Sirota, City Councilman Paul Cashman, City Councilwoman Candy C. DeVaca, and Radhika Nat, who is a former candidate for school board, and Radhika and Joe are also co-chairs of the Bernie 2020 Colorado campaign. So I thank them all for supporting me. Radhika and I worked together on Medicare for All, this one right here, Colorado Care Bernie loves 69, if you remember Amendment 69 back in 2016. That's a case where we had a fantastic statewide campaign. We got worldwide attention. We got something like over 20% of the population to vote for a $25 billion tax increase. As you know, I'm sure that would have saved Coloradans $5 billion collectively in terms of what we spend on healthcare, but it would have been spent through a tax instead of through premiums and copays. So at any rate, all that attention of that campaign and all of the high-profile work we did, I think helped spark where we are now, which is with, like I said, almost every Democratic candidate who ran embracing some level of universal health care and something close to Medicare for all. So, you know, we made a lot of progress in that campaign. People like Candy C. DeBaca and Paul Cashman are folks I've worked with on campaign finance reform, and Emily Sirota also. You know, these are some of the things that attracted me to Bernie initially, was his big stance on getting big money out of politics and ending the corruption that big money brings, and with the corporate donors trying to buy our elections and buy our candidates. So we passed the Democracy for the People Act in Colorado, in Denver, I'm sorry, and that went into effect this year to ban corporate donations for Denver campaigns, to lower the contribution limits, to disclose the dark money in campaigns, and most importantly, to provide a publicly financed component for elections, so that if anybody wants to opt in and pledge and actually only take contributions from individuals, no PACs, no businesses, but only individuals, then they can get a 9-to-1 match on contributions up to $50 and put that to their campaign. And that's a fantastic way of broadening our democracy and making it so that it really is about one person, one vote, instead of what it's become, which feels like $1, one vote. Actually start having elections again instead of auctions. So we're really proud of the work that people like Candy and Paul did, and I enjoyed working with them to bring that campaign to success. And Emily Sirota, who has brought that to the state legislature. We're working right now on a statewide version of Democracy for the People. That is a big challenge given the tremendous budget hit that the coronavirus has put on our state. But she has already passed this year important legislation to get big money out of school board elections, which have been unregulated, and county commissioner and other county office elections, which had all been unregulated essentially, and now there's some level of regulation there. And Joe Salazar, as well as Paul Cashman and all the people I mentioned, have been real champions on environmental issues and combating climate change, and that's one of my biggest issues and one of my big attractions initially to Bernie Sanders, was what he's done for addressing the climate change crisis. I mentioned in one of my emails that I ran for office 7 years ago, started the campaign 7 years ago in 2013, because I didn't see anybody in the Colorado legislation making climate change a priority. I felt like that we needed that in office, along with all these other things that I believe in. Joe Salazar took office that year, and he really has stepped up, and both in office and out of office shown what we can do with our voices and how we can change the tide and make progress. You know, so many of these things, so many things that we take for granted that we've got now in terms of civil rights and equal rights, and all kinds of things didn't happen overnight, and we're in the midst of a long marathon, and I'm there for it all. So thanks to all of them, and that gives you a little bit of a background of some of the work I've done in trying to make a difference in my community and support the kinds of values and visions that Bernie Sanders has always promoted, and that has excited me and so many other people. So that's what I bring as a delegate. a lot of experience in the Democratic Party of Denver, where I was a county officer and elected secretary, one of 4 elected county officers citywide, county and citywide, and I was very proud of my communication in that role. I sent out a weekly email that highlighted democratic values and paired them with opportunities for action for that coming week, things where we could put our values into action. That has really been my focus. As much as electing candidates is important, I really have put a lot of my focus as an activist into implementing policies and to getting the things that those candidates say that excite us and making sure they come to fruition. So I don't want to take too much more of your time, so I'm going to stop my video here and just thank you again for your involvement in the process. Welcome you to call me at 303-881-8881 if you want to talk about my candidacy as a delegate. And my email is owenperk@aol.com. You certainly should have gotten a couple emails from me by now, so if you don't see them, look in your junk or promotions folders. And my website, owenperkins.org, which if you've been looking around there, I'm a little embarrassed if you've explored it in detail because it's under construction, but there are a lot of resources that will help you get to know me a little bit better on there. And look for me on Facebook, and that's about it. I look forward to hearing from you. I will stay in touch if you elect me, and I also will be a delegate that I think you can be proud of. I'll handle myself in a way that is respectful and ethical in terms of my interactions with other candidates, delegates at the convention. One of the things I was proud of in my 100 communications over 2 years, my weekly emails for the Democratic Party, is that they were always a positive message. That was my goal, was to send a positive message about what's good about the Democratic Party and democratic values. I was getting a lot of emails in my inbox that were just constantly about bashing Republicans as a way of raising money for Democrats. And I don't feel like it's important to bash somebody else in order to highlight our positive values. So at the convention, and leading up to it and following it, I'll be treating everybody with respect, holding myself with the professionalism and the ethics and integrity that I think we want in each of our delegates representing Bernie Sanders. Bernie has set the standard for the party, for the country, and I hope for us. And so important to remember, not me, us, that's a vision he's had, and we can make that happen. All right, thanks a lot for sticking with me through this long video. Thanks.